please like this video and subscribe this channel. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. It was 11:47 p.m. when Logan Rourke saw the message. He was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping flat whiskey out of a chipped mug, scrolling through emails on his wife's old iPad she hadn't touched in months. It wasn't snooping. Not really. They shared everything, or they used to. But when he tapped open a sync calendar alert and saw Suite 403, Cedar Ridge Inn, something shifted. It was scheduled for 6 p.m. that evening. The location was a cabin-style hotel on the edge of town. Tessa said she was attending a late-night client consultation downtown. Cedar Ridge was 42 minutes away from downtown. Logan stared at the screen, then tapped on the email thread linked to the calendar event. He didn't recognize the name in the thread, but he recognized the message tone. Bring that same red dress. The one you wore last time. Same room. No signatures. Just that. He stood up slowly. His chair scraped against the floor. His heart thumped in a strange, steady rhythm. Not panic, not fear. Just focus. He'd worked construction for 15 years. He knew when something didn't line up. Something was off. Something was about to collapse. He grabbed his keys, walked outside, and drove. No headlights. No music. Just silence and a long, winding road towards Cedar Ridge. By the time he got there, he didn't even get out of the truck. From the dark gravel lot, he watched through the second-story window as a tall man opened the door to room 403, and Tessa, his wife of 12 years, walked out wearing a red dress. She kissed him. It wasn't a quick, guilty kiss. It was the kind that said, "I've done this before." Logan didn't move, didn't cry. He just whispered, "Okay." He didn't know exactly what he would do next. But the real question was, what happened at that hotel that made her forget everything we built? The next morning, Logan sat in the same kitchen, but everything felt different. It wasn't just a kitchen anymore. It was ours. Their home. Every cabinet, every photo on the wall, every corner of the room echoed that word. Our. He glanced at the fridge where the photo of their wedding day still hung by a magnet shaped like a hammer. She chose that as a joke, because you're always fixing things. Logan had built that deck himself, laid the tile, painted every wall. He remembered when they bought this house, how she walked through it saying, "This will be our forever place." And now she was sneaking off to cabins with men who weren't him. He heard the front door click open. Tessa walked in, smiling like she hadn't destroyed anything. "Hey, babe," she said, tossing her keys in the bowl. "That client dinner went forever. You wouldn't believe the traffic." "Which client was it again?" Logan asked. "Calm. Too calm." She blinked. You said you had a late consultation. Downtown. Which client?" She hesitated for half a second. Maybe less. But he saw it. "Oh, Genevieve. The boutique owner." Genevieve was out of state. Logan knew that because Tessa posted about her vacation 2 days ago on Instagram. He nodded like he believed her, like everything was fine. But inside, something was cracking. He watched her walk upstairs, humming to herself. Her phone buzzed once. She glanced at it, smiled, and tucked it in her pocket. Our marriage was a performance now, a lie with props and good lighting. Logan didn't confront her. Not yet. He just stared at the stairs and thought, when did our life stop being ours? He sat in the truck outside her studio the next day, hands gripping the wheel, breathing slow, focused. This wasn't about rage anymore. This was about the final move. He wasn't going to scream. He wasn't going to beg or throw things. He was going to take everything she thought she had control over and end it on his terms. Logan pulled out his phone and called a number he never thought he'd use. "Yeah." A gruff voice answered on the third ring. "Is this Sayer Investigations?" "Depends. You looking for a runaway teenager or a cheating wife?" Logan paused. "The second one." The man gave a short chuckle. "Everyone is." That night, Logan met him in a bar just outside city limits. The PI's name was Deeks. Mid-50s, ex-cop, blunt as hell. Logan handed over a deposit, 2 burner phones, and a printed calendar with all of Tessa's upcoming client trips. "I want proof," Logan said. "Hard proof. Photos. Audio. The works." Deeks lit a cigarette and nodded. "You'll have it." As Logan left, he felt something strange. Not relief, not guilt, clarity. This was the moment he stopped pretending. The moment he said goodbye to the version of himself that needed to be saved. Later that night, he opened the fire pit in the backyard, dropped in an old leather-bound journal, the one where he and Tessa used to write each other love notes, and watched it burn. It was a quiet fire. No wind, no tears, no goodbye, just finality, the beginning of the end. Because if she thought she could break him and walk away smiling, she didn't understand who she married. If this is the final act, I'm the one writing the ending. Logan hadn't been inside a courtroom in years, not since a traffic citation in his 20s. But he stood now at the back of a small county courtroom, watching how divorce cases played out. He wasn't there for his own hearing, not yet. He was observing, studying, how people walked, how lawyers talked, how judges leaned when they were about to drop something big. He wanted to understand the terrain before stepping onto it. Mallory Knox sat beside him, flipping through her notes like she'd seen it all before. She was the attorney Deeks recommended. She didn't look like much, small frame, worn leather briefcase, plain black suit. But her eyes were sharp, cold. "This judge doesn't like mess," she whispered. "He's a math guy. Clean evidence, timelines, transactions. If we build it right, you'll bury her." Logan stared ahead. Another couple argued over furniture. He didn't want furniture. He wanted the truth in full daylight, the kind that left scars. He handed Mallory a flash drive. "What's this?" "Her emails. Account transfers." Deeks pulled metadata from her cloud backup. Mallory raised an eyebrow. "You went in smart. I'm just getting started." As the other case wrapped up, Mallory closed her notebook and leaned back. "She won't expect this. Most men like you come in broken." Logan didn't flinch. "I was broken. That's why I'm dangerous now." Outside the courtroom, he walked to his truck and sat in silence for a moment. Court was just the battleground. The real war was going to be about control, of narrative, of money, of truth. And he wasn't going in half prepared. This isn't just court. It's a chessboard. And I already made the first move. The first time he actually heard it, it nearly broke him. It was a Thursday night, rain tapping against the roof. Logan sat alone with a pair of headphones, staring at a waveform file Deeks had sent him. Car audio, 1112. The PI had bugged Tessa's SUV. Discreet, legal, and full of venom. The recording opened with laughter. Tessa's laugh. Then Clayton's voice. "Does he even suspect anything?" She snorted. "Logan? Please. He still thinks I'm doing yoga on Thursdays." "Clayton, that's some flexible yoga teacher you got." They both laughed again. Logan didn't even blink. But then the tone shifted. Tessa's voice turned cold. "He's too small for me. Too safe. Like a dog who doesn't know the gate's open." Clayton laughed again. "So what's the plan?" "Divorce after the new year. I clean him out. The house, maybe some support. He won't fight." The recording ended with music. Something poppy. Carefree. Logan sat there in the dark, headphones tight over his ears, holding the silence like a weapon. He played it again. Not to punish himself. To learn. To study her voice. Her tone. How easily she lied. How deep it ran. He forwarded the file to Mallory, then to his own secure backup. He didn't shake. Didn't drink. He was done hurting. Now he was building. One file. One plan. One trap at a time. She thinks I'm deaf to the betrayal. But I've heard everything now, and soon, so will the judge. He used to say ours without thinking. Our life. Our home. Our daughter. But not anymore. Now it was my war. The home? He built it. Hammered the nails. Laid the foundation with sweat and patience. Tessa added curtains and Pinterest boards. But the bones? His. Their daughter, Morgan. He coached her little league team. Packed her lunch every morning while Tessa networked. He was the one she called when she scraped her knee. The future? That was his too. Or would be. He stood in the garage that night, organizing his documents on an old workbench. Labeled folders, USB backups, printed screenshots, financial breakdowns. Years of effort reduced to hard evidence. Mallory had warned him, keep emotion out of it. This has to be clean, calculated. He was all out of emotion anyway. Tessa came home late. Again, he heard her heels in the hallway, the faint smell of cologne that wasn't his. She poked her head into the garage. "Hey, you're up late." He didn't look at her. Organizing things. She hesitated. "Everything okay?" He turned, smiled gently. "Never better." She lingered, waiting for a confrontation. There wasn't one. That's when she started to worry. Back inside, Logan checked his daughter's backpack, tucked in a note. I love you. Always. He didn't care if Tessa saw it. Maybe he hoped she would. Because this wasn't just a fight over money. It was a fight for identity. For control. For what was his. She took what was mine. Now I'm taking it all back. They still called her his wife. Even the court filings. Petitioner, Logan Rourke. Respondent, Tessa Rourke wife. The word felt like a joke now. Your wife's attorney sent over a preliminary settlement offer, Mallory said, sliding the paper across her desk. Logan skimmed it. It was insulting. She wanted the house, half of his savings, and full custody with generous visitation. Bold, he muttered. Mallory tapped the table. She's playing offense. Typical in cases where the wife thinks she holds the emotional leverage. Logan sat back. She's not my wife anymore. Not in your heart. But on paper, she still is. And she's playing it like a card. He nodded slowly. Then it's time I show the court who she really is. That weekend, Deeks handed over another folder. Inside, bank statements showing Tessa siphoned funds through her interior design business. Fake vendor names, double-billed clients, even bounced checks. She'd been sloppy. Logan stared at the paperwork. This isn't just adultery. No, Deeks said. It's wire fraud. And if we can prove intent, she's not walking away clean. Later that night, Tessa stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her earrings. I've got an event. Don't wait up. He watched her from the doorway. Nice dress, he said. She smiled. Glad you still notice. He didn't smile back. Funny. For a wife who doesn't come home most nights. She paused for a second, then walked out. He didn't stop her. Everyone still calls her my wife. Soon, they'll wish they never did. Brent Caulfield walked into mediation like he was walking onto a golf course. Armani suit. Fake done. Bleached teeth. Too confident. Too smooth. Logan hated him instantly. Mr. Rourke, Brent said, offering his hand. Looking sharp for a man getting dragged through divorce court. Logan didn't take the handshake. I'm not the one hiding things. Brent smirked and leaned in. Keep dreaming. The court doesn't care about feelings. They care about facts. And my client's already won. Mallory, unbothered, opened her briefcase. Let's see about that. The mediation was tense. Brent tried to control the room. Flashy language, jokes, distractions. But Mallory was surgical. Precise. She dropped a spreadsheet on the table. Here's a list of shell accounts tied to Tessa's business. We've highlighted transfers into private accounts. One she didn't disclose in discovery. Brent went quiet, just for a second, then recovered. Any financial confusion is just poor bookkeeping. Logan looked him in the eye. We'll let the IRS decide. The meeting ended with no resolution. Brent chuckled as he packed his papers. You should settle now, Logan. Before this gets ugly. Logan stood. Calm. Controlled. Oh, it's already ugly. And I've got nothing to lose. Brent walked out, still laughing. Mallory closed her folder. He laughs too easily. Means he's nervous. Good, Logan said. Let him laugh now. Because when this lawyer realizes what we've really built, he won't be smiling anymore. The sound that haunted Logan most wasn't a scream. It was a laugh. That one laugh burned into the audio clip from the SUV, the one where Tessa cackled while mocking him. Logan, she had said through giggles. He still writes me lunch notes like we're in high school. It's pathetic. Clayton joined in, laughing harder. You've got him trained. And then the line that replayed in Logan's head on loop. I could cheat in front of him and he'd thank me for it. He'd listen to it over and over. Not out of obsession, out of clarity. Because when someone laughs at you while stabbing you in the back, they don't just break your heart. They redefine who you are. Now, Logan was someone else. Someone rebuilt. He copied the audio to a separate file. Labeled it Exhibit A, the laugh. Mallory would use in court. Not for legal leverage, but for psychological impact. It showed character, contempt, premeditation. The laugh wasn't just cruel. It was strategic. He sat in Morgan's room later that night, while she slept, watching her chest rise and fall. Peaceful, unaware. He gently brushed her hair from her forehead and whispered, You'll never see me like she does. I promise you that. Downstairs, Tessa was laughing again. On the phone. Maybe with him. Maybe with someone else. Logan didn't care anymore. because he knew something she didn't. The last time she laughed at me will be the last time she ever laughs in court. The drive to Cedar Ridge was silent. Deeks rode shotgun, flipping through a file as Logan gripped the wheel like he was holding back a storm. Same guy, Deeks said. Clayton Voss. Business mogul. Married once. Divorced. No kids. No motives. Logan didn't speak. Just drove. The plan was simple. Tessa and Clayton were spending the weekend at the same cabin suite she had once denied even knowing about. Suite 403. She didn't know they were being watched now. Deeks had a drone set up from a nearby bluff. Cameras hidden in the trees. Audio mics planted along the gravel trail. They wouldn't know what hit them. Through the binoculars, Logan watched Tessa step onto the porch in a white robe, holding a wine glass. Clayton joined her, shirtless, grinning. They laughed. Tessa leaned into him, whispering something in his ear. He wrapped his arms around her waist. Clayton raised his glass toward the mountains and said loudly, "To freedom, to living how we want." Tessa clinked her glass against his. "To getting everything I want." Logan watched, face unreadable. Deeks muttered, "She looks happy." Logan nodded slowly. "She does." He clicked on the mic recorder, marked the timestamp, then whispered like it was a blessing or a curse. "Enjoy it while you can." Back at home, Logan uploaded the video to a secure cloud folder labeled Cabin Evidence. Mallory would be getting a package in the morning, because while Tessa drank wine and toasted to betrayal, she didn't know she'd already signed her own ending. A week later, a voicemail hit Logan's phone. Brent's voice. "Mr. Rourke, we've reviewed your recent materials. I strongly advise we resolve this outside court. Let's be civil." Logan deleted the message without replying. "Because your threats don't work on a man who has nothing left to fear." He was done letting people like Brent set the tone. Tessa was the one who cheated. Tessa was the one who forged documents. Now she was scared, and that was the first honest thing she'd felt in months. At breakfast, Tessa sat across the table, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up once. Morgan walked in, yawning. "Can I go to the game with Aunt Lindsay today?" Logan smiled gently. "Of course, baby. Get dressed. I'll call her." As Morgan left, Tessa spoke, voice clipped. "You're trying to turn her against me." "No," Logan said. "You're doing that yourself." Her jaw clenched. "You're playing dirty." He leaned forward, calm. "You slept in another man's bed and tried to empty our accounts. I'm just protecting what's mine." She stood up fast, knocking over her chair. "You don't get to win. I already have. You just don't know it yet." He walked past her, picked up the chair, and looked her in the eye. "Your future is about to look very different." The court date was set. Mallory sat across from Logan in her office, pushing a thick folder toward him. "This is our angle. Fraud, infidelity, reckless endangerment of shared assets. Her new life is built on theft." Logan flipped through the documents. Surveillance photo, financial reports, emails, all neat, all deadly. "She thinks this will be like every other divorce," he said. Mallory nodded. "She doesn't realize what's coming." Across town, Tessa tried to open a new business account. The banker smiled politely, then paused. "I'm sorry, but there's a hold on your federal ID. Something about a pending financial review." Tessa's face froze. "What do you mean a hold?" Back at home, Morgan walked into Logan's office holding a drawing. "It's us," she said. "In a new house. Just me and you." Logan took it with a lump in his throat. "I love it." "Will we really have a new place?" she asked. He knelt beside her, voice steady. "Yeah, baby, we will." Because this wasn't just a revenge mission anymore. It was about starting over. Stronger. Smarter. Free. A new life. One she'll never be part of. The night Tessa said the words, Logan didn't even flinch. They were sitting in the living room. She was pacing, fake tears forming but never falling. I want more out of life," she said. "You don't get it. You're simple. Predictable." Logan stared at her. "You mean stable." Tessa rolled her eyes. "You think building shelves and making grilled cheese makes a marriage? I need something more." Logan didn't say it then, but the thought echoed in his mind. You already got something more. His name's Clayton. She packed a small bag that night. Said she needed space. He let her go. But what she didn't realize was that life, real life, isn't just built on passion or vacations. It's built on trust, on loyalty, on truth. She'd walked away from all three. A week later, Logan stood in court while Mallory presented their case. Every piece of evidence laid out like a weapon. The judge flipped through pages, jaw tightening. Tessa sat there in silence, realizing this wasn't just about emotion anymore. It was about the life she destroyed and the one she wasn't going to get away with stealing. Logan walked out of that courtroom without a word. Because when someone shows you how little your life meant to them, you show them what it looks like when they lose theirs. The Post went live at 2:03 a.m. Logan sat in his office, staring at the glowing screen as the words scrolled by. Title: Caught my wife in a long-term affair. So I built a legal trap. She couldn't escape. He wrote it all. Every twist, every move, every receipt, date, surveillance detail. No names, no identifying info, but enough truth to make strangers feel like they were in the room. He didn't write it for revenge. He wrote it because he wanted someone, anyone, to hear him. By sunrise, the Post had 23,000 upvotes. Comments poured in, "Dude, this is insane. You're a legend. This belongs in a movie. That lawyer scene? Cold. Perfectly cold." Logan refreshed the page again and again. Not for validation, but because the silence was finally gone. For months, he'd carried this alone. Now the world knew. And somewhere in the city, Tessa was reading it too. Because Deeks confirmed her Reddit account was still linked to their shared email. She'd seen it. She knew. And maybe for the first time, she realized this wasn't a game. He wasn't her husband anymore. He was the narrator of her downfall. Tessa had always been good at telling stories. To friends, "Logan's so sweet, but he's not ambitious." To her clients, "He's supportive, but not exciting." And now, to the world, he's being cruel, controlling, dangerous. Logan's phone buzzed that morning. A text from a mutual friend. "Hey man, Tessa's saying you locked her out of the bank account." He replied with a screenshot of the court order giving him full financial oversight during proceedings. Facts, not stories. But Tessa wasn't done. She began crafting her version online, dropping vague posts about emotional abuse and silent suffering. Playing the victim. Mallory saw them too. Typical, she said. Plant seeds. Manipulate the narrative. Get sympathy. Logan shook his head. She's throwing dirt before the burial. So he played the long game. He leaked court-approved evidence to his Reddit thread. Just enough to clarify the truth. And the people responded, "She lied about being abused. That's unforgivable. You stayed silent for months." She was just louder first. The tide turned. Her stories couldn't beat his facts. Her fiction couldn't cover his receipts. And the truth? The truth was louder than anything she ever posted. She told stories to survive. He told the truth to interact. The bathroom light buzzed overhead, soft and yellow. Logan stood in front of the mirror, toothbrush in hand, but he wasn't brushing. He was just staring, not at his face, but at the version of himself he no longer recognized. The man who once brought home flowers every Friday. The man who left notes in her lunch. Who built shelves for her shoe closet without being asked. That man was gone. He was still Logan Rourke. But he wasn't her husband anymore. And he wasn't broken. He leaned in, voice low. "You've got one shot at this. Don't blink." He took a photo of himself in the mirror. Calm, expressionless. Sent it to Deeks with one line. "Final phase starts now." Because the last time he looked in the mirror this long, he was still figuring out how to survive. Now, he was ready to end it. Logan walked out of the bathroom, packed the files into a clean black folder, and drove across town to Mallory's office. This wasn't a conversation anymore. It was execution. The evidence was complete. Fraud, perjury, tax misreporting, bank account inconsistencies, social media contradictions, all cross-referenced, all time-stamped. Mallory glanced through the stack and smiled for the first time. "You know," she said, "you're not just winning this case." Logan zipped the folder shut. "I'm ending cares." And the man staring back in the mirror? He finally knew exactly who he was again. He should have seen it coming. Not the affair. That was obvious now. But how deep the betrayal really ran. It wasn't just about cheating. It wasn't about Clayton's hands on her waist or her whispers in the dark. It was about the day of his mother's funeral. When Logan was standing graveside in a black suit, holding Morgan's hand with one arm and the urn with the other, Tessa had said she was too overwhelmed to ride with him. Said she needed to clear her head after the service. He thought she meant a walk, maybe a drive to the lake, something quiet. But now, thanks to Deeks, he had the truth. Tessa went straight from the cemetery to a hotel. Not just any hotel, the same one from the photos. Cedar Ridge. Logan stared at the time-stamped footage. Her stepping out of the funeral dress and into a lover's bed less than 2 hours after burying his mother. Mallory looked sick when she saw it. This isn't just betrayal. This is character assassination. Logan didn't respond. He couldn't. He closed the laptop and stared out the window of Mallory's office. The world was quiet. Too quiet. "You okay?" she asked. "No," he said honestly. But that's the point. Tessa hadn't just lied. She had defiled everything sacred, everything human, everything his. And now, the gloves were off. Because you don't come back from that kind of betrayal. You bury it, and everything that caused it. They filed a motion on a Tuesday. A 54-page complaint outlining financial misconduct, emotional neglect, custody concerns, and asset misrepresentation. But that was just the surface. The real setup was underneath. Logan and Mallory had quietly subpoenaed Tessa's business records, bank transfers, and social communications over the last 18 months. The IRS had been alerted. Not tipped off, invited in. It was a full court press. And Tessa? Still clueless. She thought it was just another routine divorce hearing coming up. She told friends Logan was being a little dramatic. Posted a filtered photo on Instagram with the caption, "Strong women don't break. We bend, we grow, we rise." Deeks laughed when he read it. Does she think hashtags can save her? Logan shook his head. Let her post. Let her pose. She's walking into a courtroom with a knife. I've got a F*****ing arsenal. Mallory handed him a fresh copy of the updated case file. Everything's in place. Next hearing, we pull the trigger. Logan nodded. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't excited. He was ready. Because for months, he'd let her laugh. Let her lie. Let her pretend. But now, it was her turn to be the one who didn't see the setup coming. It started with a freeze. Tessa stood in line at her bank, smiling, scrolling her phone. She had just posted a new reel, interior design tips for spring, when the teller called her up. I need to access the business account, she said, sliding her ID forward. The teller checked her screen, then frowned. I'm sorry, Ms. Rourke, it looks like there's a flag on the account. I'll need to get the manager. Tessa blinked. Excuse me. The manager arrived, lowered his voice. There's been a federal hold placed on this account. It's related to a legal inquiry. What kind of legal inquiry? We're not allowed to disclose further. Her face drained. At that exact moment, Logan was at home, sipping black coffee. The front page of the county court site had just updated. Rourke versus Rourke. Motion to seize assets. Approved. The IRS had taken the bait and was now combing through every document Logan and Mallory fed them. Later that day, Logan stood at the edge of the driveway as Tessa pulled in fast, slammed the car door, and stormed toward him. What did you do? He didn't flinch. I exposed the truth. She jabbed a finger at him. You froze my business account. No, you did that. By laundering money through fake vendors and signing my name without consent. She shook her head, panicked. You won't win this. I already did. And this is just the first domino. Exposure doesn't need noise. It just needs light. And I finally flipped the switch. The judge leaned forward, eyes scanning the documents Mallory placed in front of him. Wire transfers, tax inconsistencies, email correspondence that contradicted sworn statements, the cabin photos, the timestamp betrayal. Tessa's lawyer, now her second one, shifted in his seat. Tessa looked pale. This isn't a simple divorce, the judge said. This is a credibility crisis and a custody concern. Brent, her first lawyer, had already stepped away from the case weeks ago. Even he saw where it was heading. Logan sat beside Mallory, calm, focused. Temporary custody is awarded to the petitioner, Mr. Rourke, the judge said. Tessa gasped. What? No. The judge held up his hand. Ms. Rourke, any further outbursts will be considered contempt. Logan kept his eyes forward. He didn't look at her, didn't gloat. Control wasn't about shouting. It was about presence. Later that evening, Morgan sat across the dinner table, eating mac and cheese and telling him about school. She didn't ask about her mother, and Logan didn't bring her up, because this house was calm now. No yelling, no lies, no tension humming in the walls. Control wasn't about dominance. It was about peace, about protecting what mattered. And Tessa? She just lost her grip on everything. Stage 1 was done. The narrative wasn't hers anymore, and neither was the child she took for granted. Mallory closed the door behind her and sat down, flipping through the latest intel. She's trying to hide assets, she said. New accounts opened under a friend's name. The friend doesn't even know she's listed. Logan cracked his knuckles. How long before the IRS finds it? They're already watching, but we'll bring it into court first. This was stage 2, the phase Logan had labeled in his notebook as burn. Not just exposing her, but incinerating the reputation she built on lies. Deeks was gathering witness statements now. Former clients who had noticed shady overcharges. Vendors who never got paid. Logan had the paper trail. And now, he had the strategy. She'll either fold or self-destruct, Mallory said. But either way, we win. Logan didn't respond. He was staring at a framed photo of Morgan on the shelf. She's not going to grow up thinking her father let this happen, he said. You're protecting her future, Mallory replied. No, he said. I'm rewriting it. That night, he updated the Reddit thread again, anonymously. Not to brag, just to show people what happens when you stay quiet and watch. And wait, it blew up again. Another wave of support. Another 1,000 people reminded that karma always gets its date. Tessa, meanwhile, tried damage control online. Cryptic posts, heartfelt selfies, hashtags about resilience. But no amount of fake inspiration could cover the flames. Because her credibility was burning. And Logan? He was holding the matchbook. Clayton Voss had always looked untouchable. Tailored suits, luxury watches, fake modesty with just enough charm to fool a crowd. But that version of him was starting to fall apart fast. It started when his largest investor, a commercial firm in Phoenix, pulled out suddenly after a quiet background review turned up financial irregularities. Then his executive assistant resigned without notice and took a file box with her. Deeks had already warned Logan. They're unraveling, he said, passing him a printed email chain from an anonymous tipster. Looks like your wife's boy toy isn't just cheating with her. He's been cheating the books, too. Logan leaned back. Beautiful. Clayton showed up on local news days later. Short interview at a community event where he looked more tired than usual. Puffy eyes, trembling hands, smiling too hard. But it was the slip that mattered. When a reporter asked about recent legal complications, he stuttered. Not much, but enough. Mr. Voss, are you currently under investigation for fraud? No comment, he said, but his voice cracked when he said it. Later that night, Tessa called Clayton from her car. Logan had the call on record, thanks to Deeks. What's going on with your accounts? She hissed. You said this would blow over. Clayton snapped. You brought me into this. You fake vendor names. I trusted you. Don't pin this on me. Oh, it's already pinned. Click. Call ended. Logan played the recording again, then smiled. When you build a life on lies, even the strongest face eventually cracks. The custody hearing began at 9 a.m. sharp. Tessa walked in dressed like a grieving widow. Black dress, soft curls, minimal makeup. She even brought her mother, who hadn't spoken to Logan in 5 years. Mallory whispered, she's playing optics. That means she's scared. Logan just nodded. The courtroom was quiet but tense. The judge, the same one from before, wasted no time. Let's begin, he said, flipping through the files. Mr. Rourke, your counsel has submitted audio, video, and financial records. Ms. Rourke's counsel has responded with character affidavits and psychological claims. Tessa's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client has endured emotional neglect, controlling behavior, and was left isolated in her marriage. Logan didn't react, just handed Mallory a piece of paper. May I approach the bench? She asked. The judge waved her forward. She passed the paper over, a transcript of Tessa's recorded phone call with Clayton, the one where she laughed at Logan, the one where she mocked custody plans. The judge's expression changed as he read. This is her voice? Yes, Your Honor. Silence. When the hearing resumed, the judge cleared his throat. This court takes custody seriously, and based on the evidence presented, I am granting full temporary custody to the petitioner until further review. Visitation rights for the respondent will be supervised. Tessa shot up. That's not fair. It's the law, the judge said. And this court doesn't tolerate manipulation or fraud. Outside the courtroom, Tessa shoved Logan's shoulder. You planned this. Every step. Logan didn't raise his voice. I protected our daughter. Something you stopped doing a long time ago. The courtroom wasn't just a place of law. It was a battlefield. And today, truth won. He found it by accident. Logan was digging through old winter clothes in the basement closet, looking for Morgan's snow boots, when a warped cardboard box caught his eye. It was tucked behind a stack of folded blankets, sealed with masking tape, and labeled Receipts 2020. Something about it felt wrong. He pulled it out and opened the lid. Inside, a thick manila folder stuffed with papers. At first, it looked like basic business expenses, invoices, client payments. But then he saw the names. Northwest Interiors, Lux Line Installations, Studio Bloom LLC. All fake. He remembered those names. They were vendors Tessa claimed she paid during tax season. Logan had even signed a few forms. She said they were real contractors, all part of the design business. Only now, he held proof they didn't exist. He looked closer. Some invoices were dated the same day Tessa claimed to be out with Morgan. Some are backdated. One even listed his name as the authorizing manager, in a font he'd never used, in handwriting that wasn't his. Forgery. Documented. Stored. Hidden in their home. He sat on the floor, surrounded by cold cement and boxes full of lies. When he brought the folder to Mallory, she froze. This is game over. She forged documents with your name on them. And hid them. Do we give it to the IRS? Not yet, she said. First, we bring it to court. Let her lie under oath. Then we end her. Logan stared at the folder. She didn't just lie. She made him a fall guy. Not anymore. Because this folder? This basement box? It was her coffin, and she taped it shut herself. Tessa's POV she used to control the room without saying a word. A glance. A smile. A well-timed tear. She knew how to play people, especially Logan. For years, she walked circles around his loyalty. He never questioned her late nights, her emergency client calls, or why she kept her phone face down on the table. She thought she'd master the game. Until the day her business account froze. Until the day her lawyer quit. Until the day the judge looked at her like a criminal, not a mother. Sitting in her car outside her studio now, hands shaking on the steering wheel, Tessa couldn't even remember when she lost control. It wasn't one moment. It was all of them. A slow slide. And Logan had let her fall, step by step, until the ground vanished beneath her. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't begged. He had watched. And planned. She still couldn't figure out how he'd done it. How he got into her records. How he knew about the cabin. How he got custody without warning. But she was done playing defense. She still had contacts. Still had secrets Logan didn't know. And she was about to remind him that she wasn't the only one who could play dirty. He'd started a war. She was finally ready to fight it. He thought he knew his wife's game. He forgot. I invented it. You gotta be kidding me. That was Tessa's new lawyer's first reaction when Mallory dropped the basement folder on the table during discovery. Her name was Gina Vellon. Young, flashy, and mean. The kind of attorney who smiled while tearing people apart in court. But this rattled her. The forged signatures. The fake businesses. The fraud stacked like dominoes. This isn't just messy, Gina whispered. This is criminal exposure. Mallory just leaned back, calm. It's leverage, and we haven't even started pushing yet. Gina tried to recover, pulled Tessa into the hallway. Why didn't you tell me about this folder? Tessa crossed her arms. I didn't think it mattered. It matters, Tessa. You put your husband's name on forged tax documents. That's not a misunderstanding. That's jail time. Tessa's lips parted, but no words came out. Meanwhile, Logan sat across the room, flipping through a court copy of the folder with quiet satisfaction. Mallory leaned toward him. This is the point where most people beg for settlement. I'm not settling, he said. Not until she's got nothing left to fake. The courtroom door opened again. Tessa and Gina walked back in. Her eyes locked on Logan's. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. Because leverage isn't about noise. It's about position. And Logan was standing exactly where he needed to be. Quiet, ready, dangerous. Tessa's second lawyer came in swinging. Fast-talking, aggressive, all flash, all sound. But when court resumed and the evidence hit the screen, the fake vendors, the doctor's statements, the phone call audio, she blinked, stuttered, and finally sat down. She wasn't ready. The judge glanced between the two parties. Ms. Rourke, your counsel may want to consider damage control. Tessa didn't reply. She was too busy watching everything she built come down around her. Outside the courtroom, Logan stepped into the sunlight, Mallory at his side. She's going to try something, Mallory said. She always does. I know, Logan replied. But it won't matter now, because no matter how many lawyers she hired or how many lies she told, Logan had one thing she'd never get back, the truth. And truth doesn't lose in the long run. But now the stakes are rising. Clayton's about to turn on her. The IRS is closing in. Morgan's becoming more aware. And Logan? He's preparing the final strike. But the question is, what do you think happens next? Will Tessa flip the board? Will Logan push too far? Will Clayton explode under pressure? Like, share, and subscribe if you've been riding this story with us. This story isn't over, not even close. And you won't believe what's coming. He remembered the laugh. It haunted him. It wasn't loud. Not like the fake laugh she used at dinner parties or on phone calls with her girlfriends. No, this laugh was private. Sharp. Real. It played on a loop in his head from the first time he heard the recording. I could cheat in front of him, and he'd thank me for it. Laughter. Clayton. He doesn't even see it. Laughter again. Logan had listened to that clip 100 times. Not because he enjoyed the pain, but because it reminded him exactly who he was dealing with. But now, she wasn't laughing. Not when the judge listed her perjury charge on the record. Not when her second lawyer asked for a recess mid-hearing, just to regroup. Not when Clayton stopped answering her calls. Tessa sat on the courtroom bench, mascara smudged, tears silent but steady. Shoulders slumped, hands shaking. Logan didn't watch her cry. He'd done that before. That was the old version of him, the one who still wanted to fix things. This version? He just stood and walked past her, not saying a word. Outside, Mallory lit a cigarette, something she only did when a case turned a corner. She's not going to make it to trial, she said. She'll break. She'll beg. Logan stared ahead at the gray skyline. She laughed at me like I was nothing, he said. Now she's crying like I'm the villain. Mallory exhaled smoke. In her story, you are. He didn't reply, because he knew the truth. She laughed when she had control. Now, she cries because she lost it. The email came in at 6:07 a.m. Subject. Settlement inquiry/urgent. Gina, Tessa's second lawyer, was reaching out directly. The tone was different now. No arrogance. No liberty. Just desperation. My client is open to a plea settlement. In exchange for immunity from further charges, she is willing to surrender full custody and waive all claims on shared assets. Mallory forwarded it to Logan with a single line. She's folding. Logan stared at the message for a while. He should have felt victorious. But he didn't, because this was never about beating her. Not really. It was about getting out without losing everything. He met with Mallory later that morning. She wants to avoid criminal charges, Mallory said. And she knows Clayton's flipped. What did he give them? Emails. Signed contracts. Proof she funneled money through his shell accounts. He threw her under the bus. Logan nodded. Fine. Give her the deal. Take everything. She walks free. But she never walks near me or my daughter again. Mallory paused. You sure? Yes. Later that afternoon, Tessa called him for the first time in weeks. He let it ring once, twice, then answered. Her voice was wrecked. I never meant for it to get this far. He said nothing. I didn't know what I was doing. Yes, you did. She started crying again. Real this time. Can we just stop this? He waited a second before answering. We did. This is the ending. And then he hung up. Because you don't get to burn someone alive and ask for peace at the ashes. It came quietly, folded inside Morgan's backpack. sandwiched between math homework and a crayon drawing of a cat with sunglasses. A note, written in pink marker. Sloppy but heartfelt. Daddy, thank you for fighting for me. I don't understand all of it, but I know you love me. I feel safe now. I love you. Logan sat in the kitchen, lights low, holding that piece of paper like it was made of glass. He'd faced courtrooms, lawyers, betrayal, lies. But nothing hit him like that letter. He rubbed his eyes, trying to keep it together. All of this, was why he hadn't given up. Why he'd taken every insult, every lie, every accusation, so his daughter wouldn't grow up confused, torn between parents, watching someone manipulate her future like a pawn on a board. He looked at the fridge where their family photo used to hang. Now, there was just Morgan's letter, held up by a magnet that said, "One day at a time." And for the first time in a long time, Logan let himself breathe. She was okay. He was okay. And the storm was almost over. Not all wars leave you broken. Some leave you holding something that still matters. Logan didn't go there for revenge. Not this time. He parked his truck outside Cedar Ridge in just after 7 a.m., long before guests started checking in. The place was nearly empty, quiet, fog curling over the gravel lot. It looked smaller now, less threatening. Room 403 stood at the end of the upper level. Same chip door, same hanging light above it. He didn't go inside. He didn't need to. He just stood there. Months ago, he watched through the trees as Tessa stepped out of that door wearing a red dress, smiling like she'd never had a husband, like their life together was disposable. That version of Logan, the one in the truck with shaking hands and a crushed chest, was dead. Now, he was just here to bury the memory. He walked to the edge of the trees where he'd once hidden in the dark, pulled a small envelope from his pocket. Inside was a printed photo of Tessa and Clayton on that porch, clinking wine glasses. He burned it, watched the corners curl, the faces vanish in flame. No anger, no regret, just release. He took one last look at the cabin, then turned and walked away. Some people chase closure. Logan stood in it, and then he left it behind. Final court day. Tessa didn't look like herself anymore. No muck-up, hair tied back, a gray blazer that didn't quite fit. She looked small, not broken, just faded. Logan walked in with Mallory. Calm, steady. They weren't here to argue anymore. It was all over. Tessa's plea deal had been accepted. Custody surrendered. All shared assets signed over. Business license revoked. No jail time, but no legacy left. When the session ended, Tessa's new lawyer, not Gina, someone newer, younger, desperate, leaned toward Logan with a fake smile. Enjoy your new life, Mr. Rourke. Logan paused, not because the words hit him, but because they didn't. He looked the man in the eyes. I will. Outside, the sky was clear. Not perfect, just clean. Mallory looked at him sideways. You okay? He nodded. Yeah. But somewhere behind him, in that cold courtroom, sat a woman who once laughed in his face, once thought she owned the narrative. Now, she was just a chapter he'd already closed. Enjoy your was supposed to be a final jab. Instead, it was confirmation. He already was. 1 month later, new apartment. Smaller, simpler. 2 bedrooms. Morgan got to pick the colors. Her room was bright yellow, with posters of stars and a lava lamp on the nightstand. Logan's room was quiet, peaceful, clean. He made coffee every morning, walked Morgan to school. No more calls from lawyers. No more recording devices. No more court dates. Just life. A real one. He went to therapy twice a week. Started sleeping again. Even laughed once, genuinely, at a dumb cartoon Morgan showed him. The past still existed. He didn't pretend it didn't, but it no longer controlled him. Every now and then, he'd check the Reddit thread. Still growing. Still full of people commenting, asking questions, thanking him for sharing. One comment stood out. I read this whole story in one sitting. I was in a similar relationship. Thank you for showing me how quiet strength can be louder than screaming. Logan didn't reply. He just sat back in his chair, took a sip of black coffee, and watched the morning sun through the blinds. This was what he fought for. Not revenge. Not punishment. A new life. One that couldn't be stolen, faked, or rewritten. Just his. And finally free. He didn't expect it to go viral. The Reddit post had always been anonymous. just a cathartic release. A story told in fragments, heartbreak, strategy, justice. He thought maybe a few people would read it, relate, and move on. But the algorithm had other plans. One night, Logan refreshed the page and saw a headline in a subreddit with over 1 million members. Man's wife cheats, he quietly builds legal trap. This might be the smartest revenge ever. Thousands of comments. Podcasts discussing it. YouTube channels narrating it word for word. Threads analyzing every legal move. People were quoting Mallory like she was a fictional courtroom legend. Logan didn't know whether to laugh or feel exposed. He hadn't given names. No identifying details. Still, it felt strange watching people debate his pain like it was a Netflix episode. He skimmed a comment. This guy didn't just win. He wrote the rules. Another. How long until the ex tries to spin her version of the story? He turned off his phone, because deep down, he knew that was the question now. How long until someone else tried to rewrite it? Truth goes viral, but so does chaos. The call came from a blocked number. He almost let it go to voicemail, but something in his gut said answer it. Hello. Logan? It's Maddie. He hadn't heard her voice in months. Mallory's assistant. Young, smart, observant. Quiet. Too quiet. I wasn't supposed to call you, she said. Mallory would kill me. But I overheard something. Logan straightened in his chair. What kind of something? I was at a networking event. Legal circle stuff. Clayton's name came up. Logan's throat tightened. He's gone. Disappeared. He was supposed to show up for a hearing related to the IRS case. No show. No one's seen him in weeks. Maybe he skipped town. That's what they're saying. But someone else was at the event too. Who? A woman. I didn't see her clearly, but she was asking about you. Using your full name. Said she used to be involved with your situation. Tessa. No. Too young. But she said something that stuck with me. She told someone, it's not over. He thinks he's safe, but he never saw the third piece. Silence. Maddie, Logan said slowly. Are you telling me there's someone else? I think there's a third player in all this. And she just stepped out of the shadows. The story felt finished. But maybe it was just the end of part 1. Deeks confirmed it 2 days later. Clayton Voss, bankrupt, disgraced, and under federal investigation, was missing. Not legally declared missing, but enough red flags had gone up. Calls unanswered, last known address abandoned, bank accounts inactive. And then there was the phone. Logan's burner rang once. Just once. No caller ID. No voice image. Just one ring, like a whisper. He didn't answer. He stared at the screen until it went black again. Deeks handed him a manila envelope the next morning. Inside was a printed screenshot from a security cam at a gas station 2 towns over. Date stamped 3 days ago. Clayton. Hoodie. Baseball cap. Looking over his shoulder like he was being hunted. And in the background, a woman. Out of focus. Blonde. Staring right at the camera. She wasn't familiar. Not exactly. But something about her felt connected. Logan showed the image to Mallory. She stared at it for a long time. Then said, this isn't over. What do you mean? She looked up. Because if Clayton's running, then someone else is chasing. He couldn't sleep. Not because of fear. That part of him was long gone. It was the pattern. The timing. The gap in the story. One thing kept nagging at Logan. The money. Tessa didn't have the brain to move funds like she did. Clayton had the greed. Sure, but not the patience for paperwork. Someone else had helped set the shell accounts up. A third piece. He pulled out his notes, timelines, bank reports, and digital backups. One file kept standing out. An LLC Tessa used only once. Small amount. Filed through a firm in New Mexico. No major red flags until Deeks dug deeper. It was connected to a financial consultant. Name, Andrea Vale. The same Andrea who used to intern under Mallory. The same Andrea who suddenly left the legal world to start a wellness company, right around the time Tessa's business expanded. Logan's heart slowed. She had access to Mallory's database back then. Drafts of filings. Case histories. She could have known everything Logan was building before he filed it. And now, she was following him. Maddie was right. Logan said aloud, it's not over. Mallory's voice echoed in his head. This isn't just betrayal. It's strategy. This wasn't about a marriage anymore. It was about power. and someone out there still had unfinished business with him. This time, the bait wasn't emotional. It was financial. Logan and Mallory built a fake company. Legitimate-looking, shiny branding, clean digital trail. The kind of thing a fraud-minded opportunist couldn't resist. They made it look like Logan had moved his money there after the divorce. Safe. Vulnerable. And then they waited. 2 weeks later, someone tried to access the back-end servers of the dummy company. Mallory traced the ping to an apartment in Albuquerque. Andrea Vale's name was on the lease. She took the bait. But Logan wasn't angry. He was done being angry. This was chess. Final move. Queen to e5. The next day, Mallory filed a civil action to freeze any account connected to Vale's consulting business. IRS was CC'd. Deet's got her phone number. Logan made the call himself. She picked up on the second ring. "You shouldn't have come near me," he said. Her voice was ice. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for. You hid behind my wife. She wasn't hard to manipulate. You're next." Andrea laughed softly. "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be," Logan said, "because I'm not building traps anymore. I'm setting fires." She played behind the curtain. Now, the curtain was gone, and the trap had snapped the other way. Mallory looked tired. Not physically, mentally, like something deep had shifted. She paced her office in silence for nearly a minute before finally speaking. "I owe you a truth," she said. Logan leaned forward. "What truth?" She turned toward him slowly. "Andrea Vale was my mentee. I brought her in my firm. I gave her access to my clients, to you. I vouched for her. You didn't know, no, but I should have. I saw signs. She asked too many questions. Always wanted copies of things she wasn't assigned to. And when she left, it was sudden. Too clean." Mallory's jaw clenched. "I ignored it. I was tired, distracted. I didn't think anyone would weaponize my work." "She did." Mallory nodded. "And now, I have to help end it." They looked over the files together. Vale had been involved since year one, whispering in Tessa's ear, teaching her how to hide money, cover fraud, gaslight Logan in legal strategy. She wasn't just a ghost in the background. She was the one drawing the lines on the map. And now, the lines led straight to her door. Logan stood and grabbed his coat. "We finished this," he said. Mallory followed. No more courtroom chess. No more waiting. Because this time, the betrayer wasn't behind the scenes. She was front and center. And Logan was walking right through the fire to get her. Logan hadn't looked at himself like this in a long time. Not just a glance in the bathroom. Not shaving. Not passing by a store window. But really looked. Full body. Still. Honest. Standing in his bedroom. The house silent. Morgan asleep in the next room. Logan faced the mirror. Same reflection. Different man. The Logan from 6 months ago wouldn't have believed any of this. The surveillance, the court battles, the internet buzz, the quiet war behind legal walls. He would have told himself to let it go. To move on. To keep peace for the sake of the family. That version of him was buried the day he watched Tessa walk into room 403. Now, he didn't feel broken. Or hardened. Just changed. He had learned to think like a predator. To protect like a father. To move like a tactician. But as he stared at his own eyes, he asked the question out loud. Did I lose too much? Because revenge had cost him. Sleep. Trust. Some version of himself that had once loved without question. And yet, standing here now, he felt calm. Steady. Not because he'd won. Because he survived. The mirror didn't lie. This was who he was now. And this time, he wasn't looking away. The final ruling came quicker than expected. Judge Foreman looked exhausted. 3 months of filings, hearings, new evidence, disappearing witnesses, and late-night emergency motions, all wrapped into a single folder. "Ms. Rourke," he said calmly, "you've been found in violation of multiple financial regulations and have shown consistent deception under oath." Tessa stood beside her lawyer, blank, dull-eyed, not defiant, just finished. Clayton was still missing. Andrea was under investigation. And Tessa? She was now the last one standing alone. "Full custody remains with Mr. Rourke," the judge continued. "All claims to marital property are forfeited. Business assets seized. No alimony. No further proceedings. This case is officially closed." The gavel hit. Just like that, it was over. Tessa's lawyer started packing up before the words had fully settled in the air. She didn't even turn a look at Logan. Outside, the reporters waited. The Reddit crowd was buzzing again. A blogger had published the case timeline. They were calling Logan the Silent Storm. Mallory shook his hand. It's done. Logan didn't smile. Not yet, because closure wasn't a courtroom win. It was peace, and peace hadn't arrived. But the door to the war was closed. And sometimes that's enough. It came in a plain white envelope. No return address. No handwriting on the front. Just his name, tucked in his mailbox, sometime between a grocery run and picking Morgan up from school. He almost didn't open it, but he did. Inside was one page, folded twice. The pen ink faintly smudged. It was from Tessa, not an apology, not a plea, a confession. I lied about everything. I lied before I ever met Clayton. I lied to myself before I ever lied to you. I wanted power. I wanted more. I thought I could fake love long enough to make it real. And I hated you for loving me honestly. That's the part one can't live with. There was more. Small paragraphs. Admissions. Regrets. No excuses. Logan sat at the kitchen table, letter in hand, coffee going cold. For the first time, he didn't feel the need to respond. Because this letter wasn't for him. It was for her. A final attempt to set her own fire. One that burned only her. He folded the paper slowly, slid it into a drawer, locked it, not for keepsake, for reminder. Closure never came from revenge. It came from the truth, even if it arrived too late. He didn't owe her this. Not by law, not by conscience, not by any measure of fairness. But Logan wasn't there for her. He was there for him. The rehab facility sat just outside the city. Quiet, clean, monitored. Tessa had checked involuntarily after her final court loss. Not for drugs, not for alcohol. Just to get right, as her lawyer put it. He didn't make an appointment. Just walked in during visiting hours and gave his name. She looked up from the courtyard bench when he approached. She looked older. Not in the face, in the eyes. Like something inside her had given up the performance. He sat down beside her, not close. They didn't speak for a moment. Finally, she said, I didn't think you'd come. I didn't think I would either. She nodded. Why are you here? I don't know. She gave a hollow laugh. That's the most honest answer either of us has given in years. Logan didn't bring the letter. Didn't ask about Clayton or Andrea. Didn't mention court, the money, the lawyers, the press. That was all over. This wasn't a conversation for closure. It was the final scene. She looked at him, really looked for the first time in a long time. You hate me, she said. No, he replied quietly. I just don't need you anymore. They sat in silence. When he stood to leave, she didn't ask him to stay. And he didn't look back. Sometimes peace doesn't come from forgiveness. It comes from not needing the war anymore. Morgan was playing with sidewalk chalk when Logan got home. The sun was low, the day soft around the edges. She had drawn a crooked heart and a lopsided dog. When she saw him, she waved. He sat on the porch step as she came over. Can I ask something? She said, serious now. Always. Are you happy now? He looked at her. Really looked. This kid, his kid, had watched her world bend and shift. Had seen her parents split, lie, cry, fight, and fade. She'd heard courtroom whispers through thin walls. She'd seen things a child never should. And she still smiled at him like he was her hero. He swallowed the lump in his throat. Yeah, he said. I think I am. She nodded, like that answer was enough. Then she sat beside him, shoulder to shoulder. They watched the sunset together. No words. No tensión. Just the quiet between storms. Later that night, she fell asleep on the couch, arms curled around a stuffed bear. Logan stood in the doorway and whispered the truth aloud for no one but himself. I didn't win everything, but I won her, and that's more than enough. 1 year later, the house wasn't big, but it was his. Clean lines, soft floors, warm lighting. There was no room Tessa had picked, no furniture filled with memory. Every corner was a fresh breath. Morgan's laughter echoed from the backyard. She was chasing the neighbor's dog again. Hair wild, feet muddy, alive in a way Logan hadn't seen in a long time. He stood at the kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching her run. No phone calls from lawyers. No reporters. No surveillance. No firestorms. Just life. He had started building again, Not houses, but something more personal. He ran a small contractor team now. 3 guys. Local jobs. Steady work. No drama. Just honest pay for honest effort. Some mornings, he woke up and forgot what it felt like to be broken. Other mornings, the past would tap on the window, remind him of what it took to get here. But it never came in, because this house wasn't built with lies. It was built with scars, with choices, with quiet strength. Inside, Morgan painted on the floor. She looked up and grinned. I save you the blue brush. It's the best one. He took it, sat beside her, and added a single stroke to the canvas, a small sun in the corner. They didn't need to say anything. This was peace. It didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with stillness. And Logan? He was no longer just surviving. He was living, not as a victim, not as a shadow, but as a father, a man, a survivor of something that should have destroyed him and didn't. This was his new life, and it was just getting started. Before you go, you just witnessed a story of betrayal, justice, strategy, and emotional survival. But here's the thing. Would you have handled it the way Logan did, or would you have burned it all down from day one? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear your take. And if this story hit you in the chest even once, hit that subscribe, like, and share button so we can keep telling more stories that don't just entertain. They leave a mark. See you in the next one. Until then, stay sharp, stay quiet, stay dangerous. End of story.